Well, hello everybody. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. And happy Monday. Happy to have you all back with us. And I got to tell you, I think summer is here. I can't actually believe what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing right now. The last 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, has been amazing in terms of weather. So thank you for giving our sun back, all you Northern Hemispheres. It's a little bit of time. Anyway, glad to have you all back. Hello, Dragonfly. Hello, Charmaine. And hello, you're wonderful to see you. Hello, Brice. How are you?
Well, it's Labor Day for us here, so a lot of
This
people.
is the holiday.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, this is the last day. This is the official, unofficial last day of summer. You're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. That's all I remember growing up was like you don't wear white after Labor Day. But we
Why is
down
that?
I don't know. It's just some rule. I mean, now they have like winter whites, but it's just some old rule. Especially maybe it's just a southern thing where, because in the southern society, you don't like if my mother. I mean, mother knows, but my grandmother. Let's just say if my mother's mother, was still alive, she would be rolling. She'd be so pissed that I'm on YouTube, a form of television, will say, with a t-shirt on. Like my grandmother.
My grandmother was so cool. She looked like Jackie O. At the age of 36, my grandfather died in the Second World War. So she was beautiful. I mean, she was little, 5'1", this petite little thing that looked exactly like Jackie O, with her sunglasses and her sports car driving around. She was 36 and widowed. So you can imagine, and she was a psychic, babe. She was like the psychic. I mean, this is my granny that I get my gift from, right? So, I mean, you can imagine, and very conservative society. Every wife hated her after that. She was ostracized from all the families because, of course, now she's the only single woman in the community. Isn't that crazy? In
That's
these
crazy.
communities.
I mean, that generation though, like my grandma, I mean, it was like, I don't remember my mom's mom ever wearing blue jeans or like sweatpants. Every memory I have of her, she was in a dress with high heels on, with a pearl necklace on. Like every memory I have of her, that generation. And so she would be like, and so I think the whole white after Labor Day thing comes from some old culture, where societal rules. So my mother used to get horrified back when I would come home and visit from like college, where I would go. I was a big runner at that time, and I would get up early because it's so hot here, right? So we'd have to get up super early in the morning if you want to go on a long run. And so I'd go on these long runs. I'd drive out to the college campus and do these long runs, and then I would like sometimes stop by the Piggly Wiggly, which is a grocery store chain in the Southeast. The Piggly Wiggly. It's a like low, but I just to get a bottle of water, and I'd walk into my parents' house like in sweaty clothes, holding a bottle of water and a bag from the Piggly Wiggly. And my mom would be like, do not tell me you went into the Piggly Wiggly looking like that. And I'd be like, it is 6:00 in the morning and nobody was there. And it's the Piggly Wiggly. Like, come on. So, or the pig, as it's called in the Southeast.
So, we had, of course, here in South Africa, we had the Pig and Whistle, which is a pub. It's a student pub. And in Cape Town, it was for 40, 50 years, the Pig and Whistle was there, a student hangout. I kid you not, we had the best times ever there. It was like national. And about a year after I left Cape Town, maybe 2 years, and this is just after I left school, they closed the Pig and Whistle down and turned it into a stationery store. Can you believe it?
Oh no! Oh no! Well, unfortunately, Piggly Wiggly is not a bar. It is literally like where the rednecks.
Oh no, the Pig and Whistle was the best place ever. Thursday nights, ladies' nights, and oh boy, we were there.
So I would say, so my 95-year-old mom has the same rule: no white past Labor Day. Yeah, well, now they have like winter white, which looks a little bit different, but nonetheless, you guys, I mean, let's be real. In Georgia, it's gonna be hot for a while. Even though it's the official last day of summer, we're gonna be boiling. I mean, September is sometimes the hottest month of the year, so we're not out of the woods quite yet. But yeah.
I just said I'm happy I got my sun back from you guys. Yeah. So it's warm out there. The weather is sweet. My mood is perked up, and I'm sorry for all the things I said when it was winter. Okay. I'm not a windy person. Anyway, guys and girls, we've just loved catching up on a Monday, and it's so good to see you all in the chats. Lanessa, it's nice to see you here today. I'm not used to seeing you here in today's chat. Welcome, everybody. Rofi, is that Rofi? Rofi, yeah. Roger. Okay, listen, interesting topic, the Jesuit oath. You know, I have to tell you, when I look through this stuff, I have to say again how grateful I am. I did not grow up with church indoctrination. I think there is nothing more disgusting than what I read some of the stuff, and I don't know if you guys saw the cover, but on that cover, and I think it's actually near, or was it in Canberra? Whatever, I can't remember. Yeah, they talk about one of the oaths there about babies and
we're going to talk all about it, you guys, because this is, I mean, we can look through it if you guys want. I sent you the oath, the actual oath, and I did not, you know, once again, I want to make this very clear, is because what we're talking about, guys, is we're on this Borgia train, right? And we've had so much fun with, or I've had so much fun with Pope Alexander VI and the Borgia Four. But it turns out Pope Alexander VI and the Borgia Four, they're Care Bears compared to some of their descendants. Shockingly enough. Listen, the Borgia Four, they were probably a good time at a party. Let's just be real. If you want to have a fun night getting drunk, you're going to want the Borgia Four there. I'm sure Cesare, Juan, Lucrezia, Joffrey, they could probably party hard and make you laugh and have all sorts of fun. Their descendants, however, this is a level of evil that, I mean, listen, their level of evil is going to make the Borgia Four look like, I was about to say saints, but we know saints aren't that great either, but they're going to make them look like holy people compared to their shenanigans. And the crazy thing is they sell, we're going to be talking about more specifically, and it's going to take us a few weeks, guys. We're going to be talking about more specifically Saint Francis Borgia. And he is, so Saint Francis Borgia, let me see, he's the great grandson of Pope Alexander VI and King Ferdinand II of Aragon. And the reason why we have to talk about the Jesuits and the Jesuit oath first, before we really dive into Saint Francis Borgia, is because Saint Francis Borgia was the third general superior of the Jesuits. What is the general superior, you may ask? That's the Black Pope. And not only was he the third, but he was friends. I have suspicions on that too, because of where this of Ignatius of Loyola, which was the person who created the Jesuits. He was the first superior general, the first Black Pope.
Orsini guy.
No, I'm talking about when it started. Now it's
right.
I'm talking about when they started it. So right. You know, and so we're gonna I'm gonna talk a little bit about Saint Francis Borgia, but we're gonna go more into a deep dive of his life as well, because you guys, he was also an exorcist. And I do not trust exorcism. I don't trust them at all. You can't fight a demon with another demon. I mean, you can, but it's not gonna end in light, right?
Yeah, they end up having punchy, what do you call it, punchy cups.
It's just like that game, a boxing game. Like they're literally two demons just fighting it out. Who's the
punchy cups.
I mean, we were watching this documentary when we were in Florida over exorcisms, and I was literally doing my head in, because I was watching this is modern times. This Catholic priest talking about these exorcisms, and he's in his black suit, and I'm like, okay, so you're part of the cult of Saturn, and which is where we get Satan from, and you're doing exorcisms. Like, this is a joke. They're literally laughing at us. You are literally another demon fighting with another demon. There is nothing God and holy, and we all.
That's exactly it. And, you know, let's never forget. I mean, I think even if this is what I say, you know, they love to use divide and conquer against us because they know how effective it is. That's the only reason why they've got to blackmail their people in the most horrific ways to keep their secrets, right? The secret brotherhood. But, I mean, you speak to a lot of people who've been in the system or the arcane or whatever, Illuminati. I mean, they all tell you mostly they can't stand each other. They are so competitive. I mean, look at the witches fighting for position. I mean, Jesse famously speaks about the witchy battle between Meghan Markle and Beyonce. that happened, I think, 4 or 5 years ago.
I would love to see that. I'm not going to lie. I would love
Right?
to fly on the wall to see that shit show.
After, what was her name? The guy from CNN, his mother, Gloria Vanderbilt.
Oh, Anderson Cooper.
After she died, they were vying for her position. So there's always competition. But I mean, hey, look at us. I mean, even us who are working, we work for God, right? Even us have arguments sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just have spells on each other.
Yes, exactly. That's what I say. So you can imagine, even us can get irritated with each other from sometimes. Now imagine that witchy lot getting cross with each other. They'll be fine. That's why they're like these two demons having fisticuffs.
These innocent people who think they're being attacked by a demon are going to this free. Well, Lisa D, I agree. I was actually thinking the same thing. That would be the one time I'd be rooting for Beyonce. I was thinking in my head the exact same thing, Lisa D. I was like, I hope Beyonce won. Like that's what I was thinking because I can't.
I actually hope Megan won. I mean, Megan's the underdog, so I hope she won. I always go for the underdog. Both of them, it's like, oh my gosh, please, poor Megan. I mean, but Megan is something else, right? Well, I actually, I never ever listened to anything about Meghan Markle until maybe a week ago. I've seen her. I've just never ever listened to her talk or be interviewed. I mean, this woman is something else. I can see why the world is
perpetual victim. Like I want to smack her every time I see her. Anyway, but yeah, these people, like these innocent people who think they're possessed by a demon or being oppressed by a demon, they go to these freaking like exorcism in the Catholic Church, thinking they're being helped. No, darling, you're going under more spell casting when you do that. If you think you're possessed or have a demonic oppression, which I think oppression happens more than possession, then go see Shanti or go see somebody who is actually going to help you. Because that's the thing, too. When you go to exorcism, the priest does it all. It's like he's doing more voodoo on you. But if you go to a healer, you have to interact. You have to be a part of.
Your own spirit heals you. When you go to a healer, it's your spirit that does the healing work. You and God, basically.
Yeah. So it's I just thought, well, so he was an exorcist. We'll talk more about that later on. But yeah, so I thought, oh my God, because I know the Jesuits are bad, but I've never looked too closely into the Jesuits until I was like, I'm gonna have to do this because this ties in so closely to Saint Francis Borgia and the whole propaganda, y'all. Like there is a guy out there. I don't want to dox him, but he has this podcast. He's a Catholic priest, and he has this podcast where he goes by and tries to like justify all these disgusting Catholic. Like he's like, I listened to his podcast on St. Francis Borgia, and I literally wanted to reach my hand through the audio and flick him on the head and be like, "You sound like an effing idiot." He talks about how St. Francis Borgia, he overcame his family name because the Borgias were so notoriously bad. I'm like, no, bro, he made them look good. He made Pope Alexander VI look good. Like, I'm sorry, if I had to sit in a room with St. Francis Borgia or Pope Alexander VI, I'm going to pick Pope Alexander VI because this dude was nothing but evil. At least in some of the Borgia Four and Pope Alexander VI, you saw glimpses of their humanity. We saw that with when Pope Alexander VI mourned the passing of Juan. Like we saw genuine pain there. There was some humanity there. I don't care how bad Cesare was. He was hot. So I'd probably go with him anyway because he was just he was the proverbial bad boy, right? Lucrezia, she was a victim. Joffrey was super innocent. But this dude literally went on, and this is where I think the Borgias by this point went totally immersed themselves into this pyramid, into this like establishment. And it is wild story. Wow. Yeah, I mean that happened to Vigano recently too. Archbishop Vigano just got excommunicated for basically saying that Pope Francis is a piece of crap and hurting children.
Oh dear.
So they get So and I see Prophet said, I was married to a Jesuit trained man, and the truth of the severity of their commitment to destroying anyone who locks them is staggering. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. This is the New World Order, you guys. Like they are the army of the New World Order. That's what the Jesuits are. So, and it means society. Jesuits mean society of Jesus, and we know Jesus was not Yahshua's name, right? So Yahshua and Jesus are two separate entities. Yahshua was the real guy who was never crucified, right? Because I hope we understand that, right? Like the real creator God, the real God would never demand a blood ritual. That's what Lucifer does. So they took parts of Yahshua's story and inverted it and put it on the Dionysian story, which is what the secret societies are. That's what the Luma Shmati is. That's what the church is, So, the Catholics show evidence that Jesus wasn't modeled in Caesarea Borgia. No, yeah, it's that Pope up there. They're trying so hard to suppress the truth from coming out because, the problem is they like to show off they show off their evilness, and sometimes they don't know like when the bow's going to break, and so they create shows like the Borgia show on Showtime, and all of a sudden people start researching, and they're like, wait a minute, like what's this? This is not, the real Yahshua did not look like that, and anyway, but it's so we have this idea, the foundation of Christendom, the foundation of Christendom as a organized religion, as a culture, is not based on Yahshua, is not based on the Christ. It's based on the cult of Dionysus, which Pope Dope, yeah, Caesarea Borgia is the Jesus painting, 100%. That is the Jesus painting. The Catholic Church is not. They've not once been honest about anything in their entire existence. And we're gonna get we're gonna get more into the Jesuits, but no. So Jesus comes from Zeus. That's where it's. And Zeus was the father of Dionysus. Yeah.
Yes, they called him.
And so you're basically, when you're involved in Christianity, you're involved in the Dionysian cult, which is a cannibalistic cult. That's why you take communion. They also are, I'm going to be careful how I say this. They also, part of their ritual, we've covered the Dionysian cult, you guys, on this channel, so you got to go back and watch that. They do a lot with children, if you know what I mean. Inappropriate thing. Catholic layperson. Yeah, it's people. Listen, people will hold on to their opinion. People will hold on to their opinion so tightly, and their feelings aren't facts, right? Feelings aren't facts, they're feelings. And so what this group, this establishment has done is they've spellcasted everyone. They've gotten everybody's feelings involved. They've gotten everybody's, my religion's right, your religion's wrong. My Jesus is better than your Jesus. The Muslims are going to hell. The Christians are going to hell. It's this infighting, and none of these religions are accurate. They're all taken from the parts of truth and inverted to create chaos amongst us. So we're fighting each other and not realizing the truth.
But also what I think is important to note is that there's a lot of what they do is they've understood, I think it's probably like the 80-20 principle or 70-30, whatever. They will give you maybe 70% truth, and then the rest is 30%, which is then being mixed in with the truth, and that's not true. So what happens then is this is how they divide and conquer. So there is truth, and I'm going to say in the Bible, I mean, if you read the Bible at face value, it's a beautiful book. It's got beautiful scriptures, beautiful teachings, everything, and it is. But when we look how the Bible, it's not the Bible itself. It's how the Bible is being abused. It's how the people who have used the Bible to abuse. It's not the Bible, it's the people.
Well, the Old Testament is all black magic. I mean, that's all. I've covered a lot of the missing books in the Old Testament. It's all black magic. All of it. It's all grimoires. It's all spell books. And all these people we're taught to venerate through the Old Testament, they're not, I mean, they're all, if you look at the Testament of Solomon, it was a book that was taken out of the Bible, Solomon tells you he worships Moloch. He's a Moloch worshiper. And then you go back and look at some of the stuff that's left in the Bible, and you can see signs of this with the human sacrifices that they do. Even the whole story that we're taught to venerate Solomon as being wise, because these two women came and they were crying about a baby, and his plan was to chop the baby in half, and the mother who reacted first was the real mother. What normal person would see that, would even think to do that? No normal person would even think to cut. That is somebody who's used to doing this. He would exile. What's that word? Exile people who stood against him. He basically, he's like Biden today. He bankrupted his people. That's how he got so rich. Guys, nothing comes from Cryptic Christie, Mississippi. I'm not sure what you're talking about at all in these comments, but Solomon, when we look at everything Solomon did, he was Biden. He bankrupted his people. That's how he got rich, guys. He was rich, the richest man. It's because he overtaxed his people. So you can't sit there and say, oh, the Biden administration is so bad, but then yet venerate Solomon. It's the same thing. They're the same thing. And we know that the real Yahshua, the real one, was Egyptian. He was not Jewish. He was Egyptian. He had Jewish students, but he himself was Egyptian. Now, in my opinion, none of that matters. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you none of this but why? So why would they change? So if none of that really matters, why would they change Yahshua's ethnicity from Egyptian to Jewish? Why would they do that? Because of the Rothschilds. Because who are they? They are a descendant of the line of David.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are come through. They want you to venerate them. So they gotta bury all of this. I'm not blaming Lucifer. We're talking about the truth of the deception, Chris.
I don't think they're talking to you.
Okay, I was like, we're just talking about the situation.
I think someone is mentioning stuff in the chat about Lucifer, but I think on this channel we can deal with whoever is putting stuff out there. So, yeah. And
I'm going to say to you guys again, I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir. They have trained us to get to defend them. They have trained us to defend them, the cabal. And we're seeing this. Like, we're seeing this happen. We know our governments are corrupt. We know our medicine's corrupt. We know our schools are corrupt. We know our politicians are corrupt. But how many people in the quote-unquote truther community are still clinging to their churches?
And not just that. I mean, how many people? I mean, Brice, I've never heard someone say it the way you've just said it. They've trained us to defend them. And that is so true. Because when you look at, again, let's go back to the pandemic a few years ago. I mean, what a brilliantly thought out mastermind psyop they
the
played.
Whole world is shut down. What?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And how many people defended the system? I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was saying to my friends here in South Africa, do you trust Cyril Ramaphosa? Do you? No. But yet you are rushing off to the queue to get yourself jabbed because he tells you to.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Well, we're going to talk about this too, because the problem I'm having too is that all these Protestants, especially American Protestants, evangelicals, are like, who are in the truther world, think it's just the Catholics who are bad.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up. Wake up. It's all bad. All of it. All of it.
I've actually got, talking about this and just exposing churches and secret societies. You guys are watching some of my stuff with Brice, actually, one of my Australian survivors. We are now exposing on the Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, they're terrible. Oh, they're terrible. Well, Jehovah, in the missing books of the Old Testament, Jehovah is the name of a demon. That's the name of a demon. That Moses means warlock, magician, high magician. Moses was a bad dude. He was a bad dude, right? And he could, all that stuff that was God's curses, that was black magic. That was black magic. They worshiped the Elohim, which is multiple gods. The Egyptians worshipped one God. It's flipped. Everything is flipped. They stole the Egyptian book of the dead. They ran off with it, which is where we get the 10 Commandments from. You know, Moses was a bad dude, right? He was not someone we should be venerating. He was practicing black magic. He was, and not all the Jewish people were enslaved. That's black. No, people were enslaved classes, but it was multiple races that were enslaved classes and multiple races that were in the power, the high. It was, so anyway, it's, yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
I will say too is I've said this before, God is not defined by a book. I will also say, if you cannot fathom a relationship with your creator without a church or without any other religion being involved in that relationship, then you've got bigger problems that you need to, religions are a complete setup. God, as Gandhi said, God has no religion. God has no religion. And I will say, what makes me so irate with the Christian faith, one of the things that makes me so irate, probably because I grew up Christian, I see the most despicable, nasty human beings dealing with when coming from the Christian faith. When I opened up my nonprofit in India to help slum kids, I had people, when I came back home to raise money, and it takes $10, guys, 10 US dollars. That's like a couple of Starbucks coffees, right? To take care of one child for a year in India. That's the difference in money. I would have Christians tell me that they didn't want to donate to my nonprofit because these were little Hindu kids who were going to go to hell anyway. And you want to sit there and tell me that your religion is based off of the Prince of Peace? You want to sit there and tell me that your religion is real and that your God is good when you believe in a God that would actually do that? That would actually smite other people? I see so many Christians on like Telegram and these truther communities that are actually like, you can see them salivating at the idea that they think they're going into an apocalypse where they're going to get to see all the Muslims and all the other people of different religions burn in hell. If you're excited about seeing other people burn in hell, you might not be going towards the light. Because when I was growing up and people would talk about the apocalypse in my church, it would upset me. It would really upset me. And that's something that it confuses me. It would confuse me as a child. Like, you're telling me that God has unconditional love, but yet there is conditions. It's so fucked up. And again, guys, if your relationship with God is dependent upon a religion, if it makes you panic to try to have a relationship with God outside the confinement and the rules of religion, then you've got a bigger issue that you're going to have to deal with in your soul. That's going to take some major self-reflection. And I will say, I do think going through I've always been pretty open-minded. We're Aquarians, Shanti. Aquarians are known to be open-minded. Actually, it's not a slur, Lanisa. The etymology of Christian means to steal the Christ. So if you identify as Christians, you identify as somebody who is stealing the Christ. Not living the Christ, stealing the Christ. That's the etymology. So they're not lying when they say Christianity. The Christ, Yahshua, would never have wanted a religion based off of him because he was just a teacher. He wanted you to do this yourself, for you to take your power back, right? So anyway, and that's kind of where I get super, because it upsets me, Shanti, that so many people don't realize that relationship, that connection to God is not, it's not required on some, there's nobody else that can give you that. You can go to teachers to help you find tools to find it within yourself, but that journey in the soul, that self-study, as we say in yoga, that's all you. Nobody can come along. And it's the same thing, like, we see this, in my opinion, the normie world and the truther world are the exact same. They're the exact same. We see all these normies out there that thinking that getting this thing was going to save them. Getting this little jab was going to save them. But then we see truthers who are making fun of those people about this, but yet they're waiting for a med bed to save them. It's the same thing. You've given your power away. And do you not see how clever the deep state is to get you? They're in everywhere. They're infiltrated everywhere. And so, anyway, that's, sorry to go off on a tangent, but that's kind of where we see this Jesuits. So when they say the Society of Jesus, they're being truthful. This is the army of Dionysi. This is it is of the Cabal. And that's what Society of Jesus means. If you break down the etymology of Jesus, They're not.
Which is really what the Catholic Church is. I mean, it's the Jesuit Catholics, right? So the Catholic Church is made up of the Jesuits, actually.
And it's the
and when you start looking,
all of the big, it's the Protestants too. So now all of the big Protestant evangelical pastors, they're all in the pockets of the Jesuits. All of them.
It started off with that, and it just shows you how it's grown, right? Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And then when you start looking at some of their oaths and principles, I don't know if they call it principles, it's shocking. It's bloody shocking. And the fact that, anyway, I mean, I still marvel at the fact that for so many years they've been able to dupe such a large percentage of the population. And I get it, but I get it. I totally get it. And I mean, they've been doing it for such a long time, though, haven't they?
Such a long time. And the thing is like I know we got a lot of crap, Shanti, but like I'm good with God. I don't need I have my practice, I have myself, I have my own experience. I don't need another human being to tell me how to believe in God, or to have me fear God, or fear if I don't follow particular rules, which are their rules, that I'm going to somehow burn in hell. Because as I say, like we have Jehovah's Witnesses that stand on the corner of our park all the time when we're walking our dog. And my boyfriend one day was like, what are you going to do if they talk to you? I was like, I'm not going to talk to them because that's their free will. But if they talk to me and try to like sell me on, I'm just going to be like, you're talking to the wrong person, my friend. I was like, your God is the name of a demon. Like, I'm sorry, I've done my research, and I hope that you decide to do your research one day too. But that's the thing, like with these Jehovah's Witnesses that stand in the park with their pamphlets and want to sell you their religion, I'm never going to stop and talk to them. Like, I'm never going to bother them, because that's their free will. But if they stop and talk to me, if they stop me, I will say something. But beyond that, that's their free will. I'm not going to intervene. Yeah. You can't interrupt somebody's karma. But I just, what makes it these churches, let's look at the word church. Church. Well, how many people have ever actually looked at the etymology of the word church? Why is it not called a temple? Why is it called a church? Because they say, it comes from the Scottish word kirk. Well, where does kirk come from? Where does kirk come from? It's a demonic name. It comes from the name of a demon whose sole purpose, whose sole job is to hypnotize you and then feed off of your soul.
Yep.
So they're telling you the truth, and it's your fault if you don't actually look into that truth.
We really have to, and again, and Brice, I'm going to back up what you said, because the churches, and please guys, I just want to say, this is not against any of you guys at all. It's really just the establishment.
It's the truth. It's just the truth about the matrix we're in.
Yeah. And if we just look at, as you say, how the churches have been used over time, for their iniquities of disgusticism, for rituals. Speak to any survivor who's been through SRA, and there is always a church involved. Always. Some type of a graveyard or whatever. And again, I mean, it brings to mind, Caleb was talking a couple of weeks back, when they were in the arcane, when he was in the arcane, part of his purpose was to go and infiltrate the churches.
Yeah.
So basically what they do is, and it's not the people, but it's the leaders, because they are able to see with the gifts that these guys all have in the arcane, right, who is ripe for the picking. So they then start playing the leaders of the churches, and before you know it, boom, they've sold out. So they then become a puppet. The leaders then become a puppet. And remember, we talk about soul engines, exactly what you say. Soul engines, etc., soul gems. They then use these guys as their puppets to preach whatever they want. This is truth. I mean, it really, really is truth. And this has been going on for a long time. So we have to look at, what's going on and how they do it.
We have to be
Yeah, he would go, like you'd say, they would walk into the churches, and then they would throw runes over certain doorways, over certain archways, whatever, and then they catch the people within the runes, and it's all done energetic. It's not done physically. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
And
We've got to be
Vanessa brings up a good point. Many have tunnels connected to lodges too. Also, many have under, and I covered this when I covered Mithraism. Under many sanctuaries where you have your main service, underneath is a second sanctuary. And so, and you can see this, like they have, especially older churches, you can go and tour this. And so when people are up in the sanctuary praying or singing, or the energy is high, kind of like a concert, they're in those temples below doing sacrifices. You are participating in that. You are giving your energy to that.
Yep.
Now let's be very clear about this. They don't want organic portals. They want people with souls. So if you have a soul, you're a target, because you can't get much energy from an organic portal, but they can use organic portals to pull you in. But they want to harvest your soul so that you can. So you have to know. Now, in my opinion, and being completely honest, if you're completely ignorant to that, there are many. Yes, Lynn, even new churches, they're underneath. I mean, we just had that expose in New York where it was a synagogue where they found these. And don't be mistaken. If they're finding it under synagogues, it's under churches too.
They are the churches are well known for having this type of stuff. It's well known. Yes, I agree. Not necessarily each and every church. But remember, they've got to live their cover life as well. So a lot of this is what you're saying, when you're looking at the Freemasons and the rituals, like, for example, they would obviously organize their rituals on certain dates with certain moons and what have you.
Why is Easter? Easter is celebrated on, you guys, Easter's not about the resurrection of Jesus. It's about the equinox. Don't be mistaken, which is fine. Right. It's fine. It's part of nature, but don't get it twisted. They cover it with something else. But why does the date of Easter change every year? As far as I'm concerned, my grandparents, their death certificates have a date that say that's the day they died. Why does Jesus's death date move every year? Why? That's strange, is it not? Oh, it's because it's not about that. It's about harnessing the energy of the equinox. Now, also, you had just said something, Shanti, and it was so poignant. And now I've lost what you said because,
what I did want to say about what you were saying, also about the rituals that are happening at churches, and it's so true because when they're doing, for example, you now having your celebration for your 3rd degree Freemason, that will be done, like, for example, on the surface. So that's a normal one. But a little bit behind the scenes, there's another one that's happening down beneath the surfaces of the earth somewhere. So they will have these, like, let's say, rituals or ceremonies, celebrations, and they would obviously have that as a cover. But beneath that, that's where they do the nasty stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right, Lanessa. Bunnies don't lay eggs. That, for me, was something as a kid, and it's true, fertility. Yep. Bunny, Ishtar, in your face, you're right. I mean, it's like,
if you want to celebrate fertility, like, that's fine, absolutely. We need fertility, but don't try to trick people and harm. Because remember, guys, the darkness can't create anything; only the light can. So what they're doing is they're taking, just like they're stealing your energy as a soul person, they're taking it from nature as well through manipulation. Now, I also want to remind you guys, because, and we might have to do even a 2-part on this because I know we're already 40 minutes in, but the definite. Shanti, our audience, do you guys know what the actual definition of heretic is? Because I think most people think heretic is like somebody who's demonic or evil or bad. Guys,
non-believer, more like a non-believer.
A heretic is we're all heretics. A heretic is somebody who does not believe the official narrative.
Right.
That's the actual, if you look it up, that is the actual definition of a heretic. Is someone who is not believing the official narrative.
I must be a heretic.
I'm proudly, people call me a heretic all the time. I'm like, I am a heretic because I don't believe the official narrative in anything. I don't. And so, but they play on that word. Like, we have, if you look historically, we have what's called the heretical alphabet. So a heretical alphabet so why would an alphabet be evil? No, a heretical alphabet is just an alphabet that's not used anymore, is not accepted anymore. It's not A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's not the accepted, right? So it just means something that's not widely accepted. It's something that, you know, if you're a heretic, then you are not accepting of what the BS you're being given. If you oppose this.
So it's a bit like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So if you oppose this, you're a heretic.
Yeah.
If you believe the lockdowns were a sham, you're a heretic. Okay, so we have to take the power out of that word or turn that power around. It doesn't mean
true.
They want you
so
to,
true.
You know, they say when you assume, it makes an ass out of you and me. The way they use the word heretic, they want you to fear that word, like it means something bad. When in reality, the word heretic, Pope Dope is right. You have to be a heretic to make it out of the matrix. You have to be.
Let's all bounce out the matrix together.
So we should, heretics unite. You know, we got to take that power back from that word because they have manipulated that word to make you fear it. When meanwhile, they're going back to their little houses and chuckling, ha, 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 because you don't actually know what that word means. It just means you can think for your damn self. That's what the word heretic means. It means you can think for you're a critical thinker. And they don't want critical thinkers. All right. I know we've only got like 20 minutes left, but I guess should we start with like how the Jesuits talking a little bit of Ignatius of Loyola?
For sure.
The guy, this guy, let me tell you guys, Ignatius of Loyola. Oh, it's okay if I mess his name up. He doesn't deserve the respect to have his name said properly. This guy was an absolute dick. When I say he was a dick, like if you have met narcissistic, egotistical, pretty boy men, that's Ignatius of Loyola. So let's talk now. Ignatius of Loyola, that was not his birth name, but we're just going to call him Ignatius because that's what everybody knows him as. His whole point in creating the Jesuits, because he was the person who created the Jesuits, he wanted to destroy the Protestant Reformation. We are going to talk about, because Shanti was right, that gets into the Jesuits, is when the Protestant Reformation started, it is not what the Protestantism is today. Okay, it got infiltrated. But when it started, and in my opinion, I've always argued, even back in school, before I was like on YouTube or even like a conspiracy theorist or whatever, when I was in school, we would talk about the Protestant Reformation. My perspective was it actually had less to do with religion, the Protestant Reformation, and more to do with governance and sovereignty. It was inspired by people figuring out that the Catholic Church was lying to them. But what it created was democracy. What it created was individual thought and sovereignty. What it created was an awakening of self. Right?
Right.
That was just the realizing, you know, people were able to read now. We had Martin Luther with his 93 Thesis, which we're going to get to. What happened was people, you know, for all these centuries in Europe, as they tell us with the official narrative, is all my ancestors, Shanti's ancestors, anybody who's white in the chat, your ancestors, for all these centuries, you know, first, when we look at the Catholic Church and how it dominated, how it colonized. First of all, let's go back to Peter for a second. Saint Peter. If you read the missing books of the Bible, Yahshua never left anything to Peter. Everything was left to Magdalene and his brother. So why in the world would the church pick Peter? Of all of the disciples, of all the students, which there were about 70 of them, not 12, because 12, Martin Luther was absolutely a shit show too. Lanessa, I'm not saying, you know, two things can be true, right? You can have somebody make a positive change and impact on you with an idea, but they could also be a bad person, right? So two things can be true. Humans are complex that way. So I don't really, you know, paint. Martin Luther was not a saint by any stretch of the imagination, but he did instigate something that actually brought us to where we are today. And that I can say, but he himself was not a great guy. Where was I going with this? Okay, so Peter was never the person that was supposed to start the church, but why would they pick Peter? Out of all of the students of Yahshua's, why would they pick Peter? Because Peter was the narcissist. If you guys read even in the controlled Bible, even in the King James Bible, even in the missing books of the Bible, Peter was the problem. Peter was the psychopath. Peter was a nasty human being. He beat women openly, raped women openly. This is not somebody to venerate. unless you're of the darkness. So they've already picked that person, this energy that they want, right? So we pick Peter because we want to, they want to emulate Peter, right? So after they start to take control, and Constantine does his thing, yeah, that's not you are Peter, and on the rock I will build my church, right? That's not in the missing books of the Bible. That's in the King James Bible. I will build my church, my demons, my coven, my spells, my institution, my new world order. All right. So let's think about this historically when we're building up to Ignatius of Loyola and what was happening, and we get to Sir Francis or Saint Francis Borgia knew each other. All right. Oh, Ben, he had more than Arrested Development problems. Peter, that dude, if he lived in today's world, in a Western world, he would be sitting in prison for being a sex offender. I mean, he was a terrible human being. We've got, with Constantine and the Council of Nicaea, which we've spoken about at length. Constantine was horrible. It was horrible. Constantine boiled his wife alive and chopped his son's head off after he found Christianity, right? Because God changes you, right? If you're so touched, been changed by the Gospels and by God, then why would you boil your wife alive in the middle of the city square for shits and giggles and then cut your own son's head off? That's not somebody who's of the light. But we've sainted him, right? We've sainted Constantine. We venerate Constantine, right? All right. So after he in the 4th century grabbed control, it started to make Christianity the official religion. We talk a lot about like Europeans being the colonizers, right? Europeans going out and colonizing. Well, what people neglect to acknowledge is that Europeans were the first to be colonized. So in Europe, we had all of our ancestors. If you're white, if you're European, all of your ancestors were what the Catholic Church called pagans. Now, that word did not exist until the Catholic Church made it up. So the word pagan is the same as conspiracy theorists. It's the same as New Age. These are made up words by the establishment to try to discredit people, to discredit heretics, right? So all over Europe, we had people doing rituals and spiritual work based on nature, just like everywhere else in the world, just like in the Native Americans, just like the Africans.
Women who were herbalists. I mean, it wasn't even that. I mean, if they were making herbs. I mean, if I burnt myself and my mother made me a concoction of 3 herbs together and put it on, I would be considered a witch.
Yeah, and that's what the Europeans were doing for many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, even into the 700s. Look at the Vikings. They were resisting. There was a lot of resistance to this new Christianity that was being forced on them. Now, if you go back and study what was happening, people think Christianity, it grew so quickly because of the good news. No, it grew quickly because people were being terrorized. The church would come into people's little villages. They would burn people at the stake. They would murder, slaughter people unless they agreed to adapt their religion. And so if you're watching your whole village being tormented and terrorized, and then they bring a knife to your throat, are you going to accept? You're probably going to say, okay, we'll be your religion.
Yeah, of course.
And then after that happened, after they dominated Europe, all of a sudden they started to hold Latin back for only the powers that be. And the Bible at that point was only written in Latin. The services were only taught in Latin. So most of the people of Europe went through years. I mean, I've talked about this with the term catastrophobia. Catastrophic. I can never say this word. I'll pull this book out. Hold on.
Claustrophobia. What are you talking about? Okay, go on.
Catastrophophobia. I can never say this word.
Catastrophophobia.
That's it. So this is a book about that exactly. So over time, we get in our DNA from our ancestors terror, fear, and so we just automatically follow the rules, even though we don't. It's like how like my dog, for example, who's a rescue from India. He never lived during monsoon season. He left India long before he ever experienced his first monsoon. But when it storms outside, he panics because it's in his DNA to want to find higher ground. So the same thing happened to us humans over time, over the centuries and years of abuse that we received from the establishment, the New World Order, which was the Catholic Church. We submitted. We took a knee. And then that held in our DNA. Then we have this long period of time where people in Europe were just going to the masses, going to church just because they were supposed to. They had to.
Right.
They were giving all their money, all their tithing, because they were told they had to buy plots of land in heaven. So we're snowballing here. Now, at the time of conquering, when the Catholic Church was conquered Europe, at that point, they were able to do whatever the hell they wanted to because no one could stop them. So that's why we saw with like the Borgia 4, which is on the precipice of this change, they were openly having orgies in the Vatican.
Right.
Who's going to stop them?
But I think it's still happening. It's just behind the scenes.
It was just more open back then. Now they just have to hide because of things like what happened with the Protestant, which is what formed the Jesuits. So that brings us, that's why Ignatius of Loyola, the leader of the Jesuits, wanted to destroy the Protestant Reformation and restore the dominion of the Pope. So what does that mean? Well, the Pope, there's a flag. The Pope has a flag that has two keys that they cross like that. The first key means that the Pope has universal and spiritual power over every human there, and there is no salvation outside of the Pope. I'm sorry. That's a pecking order. That's elitism. That's of the darkness. Oh. So the Pope decides your salvation. All right. So, Lanessa, Geneva Bible. Yes, I've covered the Geneva Bible. So we don't have the Geneva Bible anymore. If you see something with the Geneva Bible, it's a fake. The only Geneva Bible that's left is under the Vatican. That's why King James wrote the King James Bible to try to counter, the Geneva Bible, because the Geneva Bible was truly. We covered this on Shanti's. I don't know if that was before your first channel went down or not, but I think it's still on my channel. So if you go to my channel and type in King James, it'll pull up and I go through all of that with the Geneva Bible. So anyway, but the second key, so the first key says that the Pope on this flag is that the Pope has universal and spiritual power over every human. There is no salvation outside of the Pope, a human being. There's no salvation outside the Pope. When I say the Pope is the kingiest of kings, that's what I'm talking about. He sits above the kings. All right. The second is that the Pope, the second key, has temporal power. This means that he has the right to rule every government of every nation, which he did in Europe for a long time. Right? We saw
power.
Exactly.
That's what I was going to say. Did it just appear? But somebody must have appointed them to these positions. So who gave
it's a Luciferian system, because if you look at the law of one, the dark side has a pecking order, has elitism. If you're in a religion that has a prophet, that should be a huge red flag. If you see the word prophet, huge red flag for darkness.
Right.
You can have spiritual gifts. You can have spiritual gifts, of course, but on the side of light, nobody's word is above anybody else's. We're social memory complex. We listen to it. We help each other equally. Shanti's talents are Shanti's talents. My talents are my talents. We're different, but
we work together. We work together, not against each other.
Exactly. We're different but equal. On the darkness, there's a pecking order, right? And in the light, I'm gonna try to help you with all my knowledge of studying in India and everything I know. I'm gonna try to use my life and my experience to help you. But at the end of the day, you have to help yourself. And I say this like with with my students, I say all the time, I teach you when you're in school, when you're in class with me, but when I walk out that door, I'm not your teacher anymore. I'm not going to interrupt your karma. You can ask me questions and text me questions, but I'm not a cult leader. A teacher's job is to eventually not be needed. I don't want to be needed. I want to give you the information so you have your own autonomy, so you don't need me, so you can stand sovereign. That's the difference. A pope is going to literally have all the power. All right. So basically the Pope is considered to be the monarch of the world, the kingiest of kings. All right. So this is huge Luciferianism. Huge, huge, huge. Now, okay, let me see here. Let's go. So let's go back to Ignatius of Loyola. I guess we can kind of end with him, and then we'll pick up next time. So next week we're going to be talking to Brock or Mike, but then we can pick it up after that. So Ignatius of Loyola was born on the 23rd of October, 1491 in the castle of Loyola in the Basque region of Spain to minor nobility. This is where the Bourbons live, y'all. So they say that Francis Borgia knew Ignatius of Loyola, but the way they play it off is like they kind of knew each other through passing. No, y'all. No, the Bourbons are from the Basque region too. So you can't tell me that the Bourbons, who Cesare Borgia married into, the Jesus painting married into, doesn't know? Like they're totally in cahoots together, right? All right. So at the time, the church was losing its control of the world. So remember, that's a big word is control. They wanted to counter Reformation, so they had to create the soldiers of the New World Order. So Spain at this point, when Ignatius was born, was involved in heavy battle to expel the Moors. We spoke about that with the Borgias, and it was beginning of the infamous Spanish Inquisition, which I want to cover later on. It's the Spanish Inquisition. He got involved in the fighting, and it said that as a child, all Ignatius of Loyola wanted as a child was to be famous. He was one of those dudes. He was like, if he was alive today, he'd probably be trying to be like TikTok famous or something. Speaking of, guys, a little promo. I opened up a TikTok channel. I'm having so much fun. So come follow me on TikTok as well, because it's fun to do 3-minute clips with some music. So anyway, I want to get Shanti on TikTok too. But he would be on TikTok.
Oh my gosh. You're going to have to try out. Okay, but if you're on TikTok, I'll be guys.
I'm not on TikTok. I can show you
the app. I can't bring myself to open TikTok. I can't. I just can't.
I had so much fun, you guys. This past Friday, like I did one Catherine de Medici about her putting poop in her hoo-ha. Like I did one on the Jesus painting. I did one, like it's so fun. It's like 3 little clips. So I opened up finally, so you guys can follow me over on TikTok because I'm having fun over there. But nonetheless, it's an app where you can kind of giggle at these things instead of like on your show and my show. We have very serious conversations. We laugh too, but we also talk about the serious stuff. But TikTok, you can just make fun of them. So although the censorship is worse over there than it is on YouTube, my first video got a strike. So you have to be really careful over there. But anyway, so he like would study these, because back in these days, guys, there was no like movie stars and celebrities. It was all politicians and kings and queens and military people who were the celebrities. So he wanted to be famous. And so he studied all these famous people who go into battle, military men. And he wanted to be a military man. And he dressed very eccentrically. He wanted a lot of attention. He was a ladies' man. But anyway, so at this time, very narcissistic, Ignatius of Loyola. So in 1521 was a big year because Martin Luther was a contemporary of Ignatius of Loyola. And Martin Luther in 1521, he had to respond. Okay, so let me back up again. In 1517, Martin Luther, that's when he nailed the 95 Theses to the church door in Germany. So that was October 31st, Halloween day of 1517. So that marks the beginning of the Protestant Reformation. By 1521, Ignatius of Loyola got really badly injured in a battle. He got hit with a cannonball, and it's so injured that he couldn't be in battle anymore. And in that same year, in 1521, Martin Luther had to respond to the Holy Roman Empire's charges of heresy. They were charging him of being a heretic. And Martin Luther basically stood there and said, "No, I'm not a heretic." So Martin Luther didn't even know what the word heretic meant. Yeah. Like, yeah, dude, you were a heretic. Like, so am I. Like that. He was like, "I'm not a heretic, but I don't agree with you." That's what a heretic means. And so that's a big year for both of these dudes, right? Like the guy that started the Jesuits and the guy that really kicked the ball into the Protestant Reformation. And so after while Ignatius of Loyola was recovering from this battle, he knew he was never going to be able to fight in wars again. And that's a problem, right? If he can't go fight and be a military man, then how is he ever going to get famous? That's a problem for Ignatius, not for us, but for Ignatius. So while he's sitting in his bed recovering, he starts to read books on all these saints. So he decides that he's going to become a famous saint. So after he recovers from his battle wounds, he walks with a limp for like the rest of his life. He gave up his worldly possessions and starting to abuse himself. So he started doing that beating, that order of the Catholic where they beat themselves, which to me screams borderline personality disorder. Nowadays, people who self-harm, that's borderline person. So, modern times, we could spot this shit, right? He started talking.
I mean, if you had to walk down the street hitting yourself right now, you get lost.
I'm like, that's a borderline, y'all. Like, that's somebody who's got major mental problems. You know, they self-harm. Borderlines cut themselves. They're self-harmers. So we got, and it also can be a narcissism as well. Then he moves to a cave. So he's trying to mimic St. Francis of Assisi is what he's trying to do. Because remember, he's read all these books. So he's mirroring these people. That's what narcissists do. They mirror, right? They can't have their own thoughts. They have to mirror other people.
Emulate.
Yeah. He's mirroring St. Francis of Assisi, who I think was a great person, who I don't agree with the fact that he was involved in the church, but I think he had good intentions. And so he started to talk to himself, which I don't think he was actually, I think he was either going crazy or talking to demons. And he started to fast to the point where it became starvation. Like, it wasn't just fasting. Now, he wrote from 1522 to 1524, he wrote what is called spiritual exercises. Now, before I even read the Jesuit Oath, I wrote in my notes, he wrote a spell book. That's what I wrote. I have right here, but a spell book. That was my gut instinct. Was like, he wrote a damn spell book. That's what this is. This is a spell book. And that's where the Jesuit Oath comes from, is the spiritual exercises. And I think that we could probably stop. That's a great place to stop for today. And then next time we can pick up with the rest of the history of the Jesuits and the Jesuit Oath. Maybe next time. Is that cool, Shanti?
Yeah, for sure. We've got Fancy on Wednesday. I'm sorry, guys. We were supposed to have Fancy. I was supposed to be here last Wednesday, but man, last week was freaking cray. You all don't know just how cray, but I'm still here.
It actually worked out better. I'm actually going to mark it because I think you guys, on the 9th, next Monday, I think we're doing a show with Rocker Mike. So maybe on the 11th.
Rocker Mike next week, Monday, we're doing Rocker Mike.
And then maybe on the 11th, we can finish.
Yes, so then we'll finish this on the 11th, but yeah, and then on Wednesday we have Fancy from
Good Wives Network. Good Wives.
What's her name?
It's from she's from the Good Wives Network.
Yes, but what's the show we're doing it on?
Okay, so you guys, it's actually, Shanti, it worked out actually serendipitous that you lost your internet. I just brought her onto my show and we just kind of gave a recap of her involvement in the Blanchard family. But this week, you guys, we were going to come in on Wednesday and talk about the government's involvement with the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, as well as HBO's involvement in the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. But you guys, the end of last week, they dropped Dee Blanchard's autopsy report. So she has new stuff now. And so it definitely shows that the story that we've been told, it's more evidence that it's because the autopsy report has not been released yet because we have Nick Godejohn going through all these different appeals. So they had never released it, and they finally released it. And it's wild. I was just listening to her recap it on her network, so I can't wait to add that into the mix too on Wednesday with Fancy. And Fancy's hysterical. She's a great storyteller. Bless her heart. She's a heretic because she's gone against the official narrative, and she's the only media outlet.
Heretic. I love calling myself that.
It's a t-shirt that says "Proud Heretic" on it.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
Anyway, sorry, Brice, carry on.
Well, Fancy, I will say, you guys, she literally is the only media outlet out there that is trying to get to the truth. And because all these other media outlets, for some reason, have succumbed to this fake story, she's been blackballed. She's been stalked. She's been, and I told her on my show, I got kind of emotional because we know what that feels like, but she's dealt with it on a national level. Like Shanti and I deal with it on the YouTube world. She's dealt with it. Like she's been in tabloid, magazines have, it's been wild for her. And I thanked her that she kept, because that feels like when you're just being attacked. And basically you don't think you're going to be attacked. You're like, hey, I have the truth here. This is not, and then all of a sudden you're just being annihilated by these bigger people. They've tried to shut her up with lawsuits. They've tried everything. And I feel like finally this woman, she's being vindicated because more and more people are listening to her now.
But isn't that wonderful that this is what I love about the time, moving into the time of Aquarius, because, Aquarius is all about standing in your truth, walking your talk, rediscovering your own power, that which is within you, coming out of the shadows and into the light, you know. So it's just such a beautiful time to see how many people are speaking up and speaking out, you know. And guys, say happy birthday to Ara. It's my birthday today. 4 years old we are. But I have to tell you, we've been knocked down, we scramble up, we get knocked down, we get shadow banned, we hold on by a thread. But man, oh man, we are still going. So I want to just,
I was so funny. I was saying, because I've gotten a lot of new subscribers because of the Gypsy Rose Blanchard thing, and I was telling I was doing an update. I'm going to post later my challenge, and I was saying on my channel today, and I was saying we're going to be on with Shanti on Wednesday with Fancy to talk about some of the more potent stuff of this case. And I was like, for the new viewers, just make sure you're subscribed to both ARA and Solutions with Shanti, because sometimes, y'all, we plan to go on one channel and we gotta go on the other because
we have to, yeah.
So I was like,
they shadow ban one and then I'll sneak onto the other.
Yeah,
they shadow ban me on Solutions as well. Can you believe it? They've shadow banned me on Solutions.
Oh, I can. They don't want.
And they now stopped me from streaming because I could usually stream onto Facebook as well. They stopped me streaming onto Facebook, Ara's Facebook, for 6 months. And they've just cut my streaming to Solutions Facebook for, I don't even know what I did. I don't even know why they won't allow me to stream anymore, but I did something wrong. So, yay, everybody.
That's what I was telling new subscribers. I was like, Shanti works with a lot of whistleblowers and she challenges things. And I just make sure you're subscribed to both channels because we might plan to do one channel, but we might have to go on the other because of the powers that be, which Fancy's gone through too. I've watched Fancy do live streams before where she'll be live streaming on TikTok and on YouTube. And she'll get like notified in the middle of the stream that TikTok has just struck her.
Yep.
And it's like, what is she? She's saying the truth. She's saying the truth. So,
and then they'll strike your video so many times and then they strike your channel.
Yeah.
But every time they strike your video, and you see what they do with me nowadays, they are striking my videos and they're demonetizing my videos.
Yeah.
So
they
take my income away because the videos are being demonetized and they are striking certain videos. So they're letting my channel go. But
it's because we're heretics. It's because we're heretics.
But we are on Gnostic TV.
Yep.
I've done my first interview. I just haven't put myself completely up yet. My first interview, it's going to go probably tomorrow, guys, on Gnostic TV, where I've actually interviewed Asia Rain. Now, Gnostic TV, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it in our next show as well with Rock and Mike, etc.
Yeah.
But it's no censorship. So I'm going to start doing my shows on there as well and come and join us over there. But I'll let you guys know.
Should we pre-advertise, Shanti? I think on September 21st, you guys, we're going to do a live show, a live event on Gnostic on the O-negative bloodline. And we're going to do it over there because I can talk about the O-negatives like scientifically about the antigens and all, no antigens, all that kind of stuff. But we want to talk more about the conspiracy side of the O-negatives. And so we're going to do it as an event over on Gnostic. We'll let you guys know once we have the links, but we're looking at September 21st. It's a live event. So if you're interested in understanding more about, and for people who are RH positive, this is important as well because the RH negative, even though they're different, they're equal. The bloodlines are equal. They're just different. RH negatives disprove evolution.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we come from the dragons. Don't tell us we come from the apes.
No. We came from the Anunnaki. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of. But no. We'll talk about it. We'll get into that over on that.
We from the Kinefel. Great show, heretics.
Heretics unite.
I love it. Thank you, Susan. Great show. Yeah.
Past lifetimes we were being burned at the stake for being heretics. This lifetime we're being censored on YouTube. I'll take this over the past any day of the week.
Yeah, and we're being roasted and toasted on our shows.
Yeah, that's it. We're not being physically. They're like, can you imagine? They're probably like, crap, they're back again. You know, like,
different face. Oh, but I know those eyes.
Energy. I thought I burned you last life. I thought you would never come back. So, yeah.
I love it. Okay, everybody. Thank you so very much. And we're also organizing a virtual conference on Gnostic TV, where we were, and that's date probably finalized, but I think around about the 29th of 28th, 29th of September. And we're going to have, it's the SRA Tales from the Dark Side conference, where we're having our beautiful speakers. Jesse will be there. Caleb will be there. Rachel Vaughan will be there. So guys, come and support them over there. It's a whole new platform we are introducing SRA to. Yeah, with us heretics in the forefront, introducing SRA to a whole entire audience. I mean, most of these people,
heretics are going to heretic. We're just over there hereticking. So
we're just ticking away. Tick. Not TikTok. We tick. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so very much. God bless you all. Take good care of your beautiful selves. I shall see you tomorrow night with Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. We will be talking more about
Another heretic in our club.
I think we should call our channel Heretics. We should just call our channel Heretics. All right. Okay, guys. Take good care of yourselves. As I said, I'll see you tomorrow with Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. I will see you Wednesday for Double Trouble with Jessie. And then Brice afterwards with Fancy, where we talk about that Lily, no, not Lily Rose. What's her name? Is Brice, man. My mind is like mashed potatoes. Gypsy Rose. And wish me well. I'm going to go and drink some champagne. Hey.
And guys,
I'm going to drink champagne, by the way. So,
and let's get Shanti on.
Where are you? Are you there?
Yeah. Can you see me? Can you see
me? I
can. Yeah. Let's get Gypsy. Let's get Shanti on TikTok, guys. I think she'd be hysterical on TikTok.
I can't even open that app. I can't. I just can't. Anyway, I'll try. But I do agree. I mean, when I see reels on YouTube or Facebook from TikTok, I watch them, but I just don't go onto TikTok. It's just like, anyway. Okay. All fun and games. Have a beautiful day. We will see you tomorrow. Take good care, everybody. And don't be naughty now. Beautiful week to you.